Namaskar. Welcome to the 18th episode of the Indian Ad Geek. My name is Vishal Mehra, and this episode is coming to you live from the pristine AQI land of Phuket. Today, we are getting into the juice of the industry, literally. In a world of corporate giants and holding companies, our guest today decided to grow something of her own. And boy, did it ripen. She is the co-founder and global CEO of Grapes, a woman who's been navigating the digital vineyards since before most of us knew what a hashtag was. She's gone from building an independent powerhouse to leading a global charge, all while keeping her feet firmly on the ground and her eyes on the CTRs. Please welcome the woman who proves that in Indian advertising you definitely don't want to have sour grapes. The brilliant Shraddha Agarwal. Welcome to the Indian Ad Geek.
Hey, Vishal, how are you doing?
Tell me how you and advertising happened, Shraddha.
Long story. So I think I was one of those jokes Amir Khan cracked on Three Idiots, right? Um, पहले इंजीनियरिंग करते हैं फिर एमबीए करते हैं पता नहीं एमबीए करते क्यों है तो इंजीनियरिंग क्यों की राइट सो आई थिंक इट वाज अ टिपिकल भेड़ चाल दैट टाइम व्हेन वी वर यंग that you have to go for your engineering and then you have to go for your MBA. And that's what happened to me. I was basically finished my computer engineering and then I appeared for CAT and then I appeared for MICA exams. And then MICA happened and everybody was like, it's a great college. Nobody knew what you want to do. You just wanted to get into a great college. So that's how advertising happened to me.
I think you joined Grapes about 14, 13 years back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so in during this time, how has Grapes business model evolved since founding and what revenue streams are now driving most growth for you?
Yeah. So I think we, as Grapes, we've evolved quite a lot. We were actually a Grapes software in 2009, which was basically, we were a tech company who was doing website, apps, SEO at best. I joined them in 2013, right after my marriage. And I sold websites for a year almost, right, to a lot of clients. And then I just got bored. I was like, dude, I can't keep selling website because I came from a good marketing background and I wanted to do more. So I recommended that we start Grapes Digital. And but I got pregnant that time. So when I joined back in 2014, I started Grapes Digital and we commercialized the whole communication by 2015 January. Now the big challenge came out to be who's gonna come and work with you, right? So basically, I reached out to a lot of my ex network connections, etc. And I spoke to them and I said, just get me in the room. I'm not asking you to give me the business. I'm just asking to get me in the room and listen to me once. And luckily, everything fell in place. We got Home Shop 18, we got Pepper Tap, we got Volvo Eicher, we got Maruti Suzuki Nexa. And then I think during the course of Maruti Suzuki Nexa, I remember very clearly was a big pivot for us because we were actually making their website when Maruti Suzuki Nexa was launching back in 2015, right? So we were the first brand, we were the first partner for them who actually launched a auto website which could take payments for car as your first, download payment, which is not feasible because in the auto industry, you have to take payments at a dealer level. You can't take payments at a central level, even if it is as small as 10,000 rupees as a down payment, right? So we actually created 250 payment gateways, which is basically depending on the dealer that you are choosing from where you want to get the car, the payment will go to them directly. That project went so successful that they were so open to us as a partner to experiment more. But instead of coming to us directly and saying that, why don't you, work for us or other platforms or other digital facets, they asked us for vendors. Do you know someone? Because they trusted our recommendation, right? Do you know someone who can do social media for us? Do you know someone who can do media planning and buying? And I was like, and they were like, but you're a tech company, right? And I was like, don't worry. So I said, again, just put me in the room. You don't have to give me business. Listen to me once. And then we pivoted ourselves from just being a social media agent, from a software agency to a social media agency. Then we got the business for media planning and buying. and influencer marketing. So 2015 was really a big pivot. We became a full-fledged digital marketing agency, right from social media to media planning and buying to websites and influencer marketing. So that was great for us, right? Then pandemic happened and we were all villa to the core. Right, but I think as digital agencies nobody was letting us sit because nothing else was working in the marketing world. So all the eyes were us on us, right? Every client, every CMO was like, we can't do anything anywhere else, let's do something on digital, right? So that is where we were literally slogging ourselves and working and everything. And I was like, you know what? It is not. And they started opening up us to digital agencies, saying that, you know what, these guys can also think. They can bring in a brand idea, they can bring in a campaign idea. And that made me think, yeah, why are we always dependent on an offline agency to bring in the master idea or the main campaign? We can also suggest great ideas. And that's when our business model again once changed from being a digital agency to a integrated communication agency. So that happened to us in 2021, and we basically hired a lot of people from the offline world to actually accelerate the growth that we had. And then the pivot for us happened in 2024. There were two big major things that happened with us. One, we started our business offshores, right? So we opened our London office, we opened our Dubai office, and we realized that it's always good to earn in another currency. Yeah. And the second thing that happened was AI. While everybody keeps saying that, you know what, we are getting overwhelmed with AI or there's a lot of job replacements that will happen with AI, but I'm telling you, it's a boon to the communication agencies and the market itself. The speed, the quality, the efficacy at which we are working is insane. So at Grapes, we created a couple of orchestrated agentic agents, AI agents, which are now helping us in terms of doing jobs at a faster speed and a much better quality and efficacy. So now we've become a full powered AI enabled agency. And that's our latest business model. So we've also created a AI tool, which is an orchestrated social agent in Dubai as one of our core markets. And that is what is the latest business model for us now.
What revenue streams now drive the most growth for you?
So creative is my maximum revenue stream, which is basically approximately 50-55%. Then another 15% is coming in from media planning and buying. And then I have three more verticals, which is tech, SEO, and PR, which is driving approximately 10-12% each.
So, in recent years, you have launched Grapes Storyteller Studio. You have launched Grapes Imagine, which I think is the AI studio. You have Grapes AI Commerce Lab, plus Grapes Vernac Room. What was the strategic thinking behind creating these sub ventures instead of integrating them into the core agency structure? How do clients benefit from this modular approach?
So what happens? No, it was basically becoming a two-pronged approach. One is a client wants to go to a specialist. He wants to constantly look forward to a newer thing that he can integrate in his system. And when he goes to a generalist, he does not believe in that system. Second, within the ecosystem, when you tell an employee who's joined, you're supposed to do client servicing today. Tomorrow, you're supposed to do media planning. Day after, you have to go for production. Next day, you have to find an influencer. He's so confused with his KRA and he starts resisting adopting to new things. So we had to open specialized department within the system who is generally faster in terms of producing and can talk to the client as an expert. So all these departments are actually a part of the same world of communication, but they're specialized department to cater to your need. For example, if you want production work, like if you look at social media today, what you and me are doing today on this call is content creation. We are not writing an article, right? Because we genuinely believe that people will watch video more. And hence it is more important for us to create content. And that's where the studio came in. Even in terms of influencers, right? We all knew that you are not going to believe the Shah Rukh Khan ad that I'm going to create once. You're going to believe 100 influencers that I'm going to get. So hence the influencer lab. And layering all of them with AI now is becoming a big piece for us. So imagine if you like, for example, if you've seen the latest campaign that we've done for Manforce condoms, we've got the India's first brand ambassador, who's an AI brand ambassador called Myra, right? We literally placed her in between real people and you could not guess till we announced it. So those kind of projects, even doing UGC projects for which so many of tools are now famous. We have our own in-house tool also, which helps us in terms of creating such ambassadors. to a precision which is at 1,000 realistic nodes, which is not there with other tools that you see in the market today, right? So all this is accelerating the job of a client because you're spending approximately 70 to 80% of your spends on social media today. Whether it is to do with content creation, media planning and buying, influencers, anything it's going on social. So hence these studios made a lot of sense.
Grapes has transitioned from digital first to an integrated brand partner. With the expansion into the UK and Dubai, what have you learned about the difference between integrated marketing in a mature Western market, let's say like the UK, versus the fragmented India slash Bharat landscape?
So Dubai, in fact, is 2 steps behind. They're not experimentative at all. Still date. UK is a very, very mature market. India will take some time to reach there, right? So UK is a very thorough market with respect to a brand positioning space. Why do I exist? How am I different from the market? Why does the category exist? They will ask so many questions before launching a product. It's not funny. And they will ensure that they have given you enough and more time to launch that product, right? Well researched, well packaged, well communicated product. India, while they will do the research, but there's a lot of gut feeling also. Second, they don't have time to do anything. Like, even I'm telling you, a very, very large automobile brand gave us 3 months to launch a new brand. Right? It's not funny. They think everything should have been done yesterday. They'll take 3 months to sign the contract and then they'll give you 3 months to launch the product. But Dubai, while they keep launching a lot of products, but they're not ready for experimentation. You'll not see like a great emotional campaign or a tech-based campaign in Dubai. Dubai is very flashy, big, bold advertising on big billboards. You're done, and it's a very, very relationship market. You are there, you can drive business. If you're not there, you can't drive business.
What prompted the expansion into the UK? Why was it important for you, Shraddha?
So honestly, one of our ex-clients was working at Amazon Prime UK called Cine. Um, while we were working with her, she trusted the work with us so much that she wanted to give us more business from her other colleagues and everything. And then when we started that, she was like, why don't you create an exclusive dedicated team for us that can help us speed us the work, etc., etc. And then that's where we said, why don't we start a business in UK itself? And I asked her to join us. And now she's our CEO. So that's how UK happened. And then Dubai was, and then once you taste international currency, then expansion is obvious, right? So we looked forward to UAE market. We're also looking forward to USA market now as the third step.
Great. Best wishes for that, Shraddha. How do you balance Grape's expansion with maintaining profitability and margins in an industry where consolidation is creating massive pricing pressures?
I think everybody learns the hard way. You need to be very, very thorough with your P&L, right? So I think a lot of, and I'm telling you from a perspective where I've seen so many CEO books, right? Um, the books are all over the place. You have no clue which expense center and which revenue center are matched together. You look at it from an overall perspective. So when you start matching, okay, this is your revenue center and this is the expense center to it, and you review it almost every month, if not weekly, you'll be able to have a very strong hold on your numbers. And you'll be able to understand that whether this particular market is making sense for us or not. Then you can have an experiment budget. So you say that, okay, if I'm looking forward to a 20% margin, I'm going to have a 7 to 8% investment or experiment budget because it's a new market for me or a new vertical for me, right? And then you evaluate very strongly that budget that you've spent, whether it is adding additional revenue or not, either bottom line or top line, right? So we did this. We actually hired a very expensive resource in UK. Matlab, the cost of a CEO here in India is the cost of a senior business manager there, right? It's insane. We took that punt in very early days of our UK market launch. He made more money than we made. So we literally, but we tried it. We experimented it. We kept a very strong eye on it because we wanted to understand whether this will work in our favor or not. Experimented for 6 months, took 3 months to close that, which was insane. But yes, that is how you basically can ensure that you manage your P&L strongly. And P&L is very different from cash flow. So you need to ensure that as well.
Right. Walk me through your most successful pitch in the last 18 months. What differentiated it and how did you price it?
One of the successful pitches is an automobile brand that we just got on board. We basically pitched for it for a year. 1 year we kept pitching for it. It started with a intro where they wanted us to pitch for a particular. So what happens is they give you a brief, a sample brief, right? And within that sample brief, you can basically look forward to saying, okay, if this is your objective or business problem or brand problem, this is what the solution I can offer. So you take the entire pitch in two parts. First is a creative pitch so that they can, because everybody gets hooked to creative, right? If you just throw them strategy, if you just throw them numbers, then you become a performance agency. So we give a good 50 to 60% of our deck as a creative pitch. Okay. Then we actually divide the rest 40% in two parts. 15% goes on strategy. Why do we think that your brand should be positioned like this versus others? And the rest 25% is basically more to do with GTM. You will not see agencies in the market today who will go to a client with a GTM strategy because they generally want to just sell one piece. I'm a performance agency, I wanted to sell performance. I'm a social agency, I wanted to sell social. I'm a CRM agency, I'll sell you CRM, right? Nobody will stand and say, guys, look at this. There are 47 different platforms where you can advertise today, but why do you need to go on 47 platforms? I have fought with my clients in a pitch where I said, you don't need to be on 6 social media platforms. Why do you need a YouTube channel along with an Instagram channel and a Facebook channel, which makes no sense? And even if you're doing it, it's republished. One client literally fought with me, can you add Twitter to it? I said, who is watching your content on Twitter? First, you need to know that it is X. Second, you need to know that only bureaucrats, politicians, and entrepreneurs on Twitter out of habit and announcement because they can't make videos all the time. So they want to do text tweets, right? Why are you going to be on Twitter? So this is one of the biggest problems that people are facing. So we create a funnel called, which is very well known, which is ACPP funnel. And then we basically create a Grapes proprietary framework, which is called as SPIC. Suspect, prospect, intent, content. So content is basically anybody who's your current customer. He's content with your product. He's going to buy your product again. They're going to be a repeat purchase. Intent is people who are going to look forward to buying your product today. So they're searching, let's say, two-wheeler bike with XYZ features, YZ price, etc. Prospect is somebody who's reading content around that category. Okay. And suspect can be anyone who's watching a GC or a news channel and might buy your product in 6 months. Now, if you can put this on column and your ACPP funnel on the rows, and then create what platform can go in which cell. And now if you have 100 rupees, do you think I should spend it on a suspect or a prospect? I should definitely spend it on an intent and content, right? I would like you to repeat purchase. I would like you to buy a category that you're searching for now. बिकॉज आप अगर रोड पे जा रहे हो ना और आपको वॉशिंग मशीन नहीं खरीदनी तो आपको सैमसंग का इतना बड़ा बिलबोर्ड भी नहीं दिखता, लेकिन खरीदनी हो तो ऑटो के पीछे इतना छोटा सा ऐड दिख जाता है, राइट? सो वी क्रिएट अ GTM strategy where we talk about what platform makes sense for you in what budget, and do you want to currently drive more sales with intent and content audience or push new users in the funnel? And if you want to push new users in the funnel, remember it will take more effort and money. And everything has a platform. That's the best part about digital. Depending on your brand, depending on your need state of a consumer, depending on your objective, you have a platform to do that for yourself. So you don't need to go to 100 places. And this is what always makes us win a pitch against other, because your creative idea and my creative idea can be subjective today or tomorrow. My team Foucault something last night and made a better pitch. Tomorrow they won't. You can't help a creative pitch all the time, but a strong GTM you'll never miss.
Yeah, you're right. Do you focus more on demonstrating category expertise or creative firepower, data insights, or cultural fit? What is most important in pitch rooms according to you? And has that changed over the last, 2 to 4 years?
Earlier, people were a lot more happy to get you into a room because you have worked with a similar category. You understand the nuances, acronyms, and of that category very well. I think now, because of the clutter, you're exposed to 6,000 ads in a day, like logo impression somewhere or the other. So much clutter that if you follow the rules of the category, you can't break the clutter. So now, if you look at it earlier, and we work with almost some 15 genres of 15 industries today, right? So when a client say, "Oh, you're working with so many industries, so diverse you guys are. How will you focus on my? You don't have a background in our industry so much." I said, if you want another agency who's a background in your brand, then only look for them for performance. Don't look for them in the mid funnel or the upper funnel because they'll not think out of the box, right? And your performance will continue to only grow till your tap is open. The day you close your tap, it's all gone, right? You need an agency who has no experience in your category because the amount of effort they'll put to learn your category and think out of the box will be different from a person who already knows your category.
Absolutely. How do you structure retainers versus project work today? And what negotiation tactics work in the market for you?
So, retainers, I would recommend any agency who's starting business to always have a size of a retainer business which is equivalent to their salaries and their seat cost. And seat cost is not rent and internet, it is everything, your support fee, your management fees, etc., etc., etc. Right? So, we only divide cost into two parts. One is your salary, second is your seat cost. So, a retainer should be equivalent to that. So, then you are covered. Any project that you buy, get on top of it is basically your out and out profit. Okay. We prefer having at least 65 to 70% as our retainers, and 30% can be my ad hoc business. In a retainer business, we don't negotiate very hard because they come at a fixed team size, and we know there will be only Y percentage of profit that we'll make in a retainer business, right? Project business or ad hoc business, you can still negotiate and go below the line. Why? Because then you know that you are going to use the same employees to deliver that project. You are not incurring a new cost. It's like seat खाली जा रही है ना एयरप्लेन में भर दो कुछ एक्स्ट्रा ही आएगा ना. So that is where you should not lose projects until unless it's going to harm your reputation of a cost perception that you're going to face in a future. If that is taken care of, then you're home.
Before we move on, just a quick reminder to the 90% of you who listen to the show but do not subscribe to it yet. Please do press the follow, subscribe button wherever you're listening to this. Back to the conversation with Shraddha now. Shraddha, as we see the rise of retail media networks, how is Grapes helping brands reclaim their relationship with the first party data? Is the role of the agency in 2026 more about media buying or is it more about data resolution?
Okay, so I'm sure if you've read these reports which says the life of a CMO has reduced to literally 18 months, right?
And everybody, so many people in the organization are now doing CMO's job. So the CIO can be a CMO, the CTO can be a CMO. Even I have seen in so many organizations, the CHRO is also doing the job of a CMO.
Yeah.
So absolutely, yeah.
It's becoming insane, right? Imagine a person who was supposed to only create ads and a great communication and a brand story. Now he's supposed to look into first party data. He's supposed to look into tech. He's supposed to look into consumer journeys. He's supposed to look into data analytics and Power BI boards. He's also supposed to look into ensuring that the team is happy and we have cultural events in the company so that they don't have a bad attrition, right? He's also supposed to look into extracurricular activities that he's doing in the company. And then he's also looking forward to launch a new product because he's got some insight because of social listening from net. So it's insane, right? Your expectations from a CMO is so much that you've given him an impossible task to crack. Second, the problem is nobody has sat down and said, guys, let's make a 3-year plan. Okay. Year 1, we'll crack these 2 things. Year 2, we'll crack these 2 things. Year 3, I know there are 100 things to do. We all know there are 500 things to do. Right? Even when you go for travel, we want to cover 500 spots. But can we cover all 500 spots?
Yeah, and that hasn't happened, Shraddha, probably because, like you were saying, the life expectancy of a CMO has reduced so drastically that nobody's thinking 3 years ahead. Everybody's thinking, what can I do in the next quarter, or maybe the next half year, or maximum the next year.
Exactly. And none of them are also laying down an objective. So, for example, I've sat in boardroom meetings where you'll have a conversation all of a sudden, हमें तो सेल चाहिए, सेल होगा तो सबकी सैलरी आएगी, एंड देन इन 5 मिनट्स दिल में एक वायरल आइडिया दे दो. अबे मतलब मैं तेरे सेल पे फोकस करूं या तेरे वायरल आइडिया पे फोकस करूं? There is absolutely a kids boardroom who is interested कि मुझे लॉलीपॉप भी दे दो, च्युइंगम भी दे दो, केक भी दे दो और मुझे मूवी के लिए भी ले जाओ. So it's insane, right? What we need to realize is that if you, like I said, that's why our frameworks work so well. So for example, one of the frameworks I created is COT for topical marketing. Okay. Now, the amount of time the marketing team, the CEO, the CMO, the digital team, the agency, the dealers and distributors would have spent on that Christmas creative to be sent on social media as well as WhatsApp from your brand would have been insane, right? Just all these intelligent CXOs, ask them, what is the ROI they got out of this creative? They have no answer. They must have spent, even on the pot, the first thing that they must be giving feedback, oh, change this in the Christmas creative. भाई हग ले आराम से, मतलब टेंशन क्या इतनी? What is the ROI that you're going to get on this? So people are not thinking through the fact that I met one client who said, this is my topical list for the month. There were 18 creatives in the topical. He wants to wish Guru Nanak Day. He wants to wish independence. He wants to wish this, that. I said, what are you getting out of this? Your page is looking like a newspaper to me. Who's wishing, or a Archie's card to me, wishing everything. He was like, no, my dealer, one distributor told us that you've not sent me this creative. I said, put it on WhatsApp, then why is it on your social media? Nobody is ready to answer these questions, and nobody is ready to take all these things one by one. So if I tell your CMO or CXO that, okay, if topical marketing is so important to you, can we sort this out for 1 month and a half, right? And then move to the next task? No. Add more people to it. अबे मैं 4 और लोग लगा दूंगी, इसका मतलब ये थोड़ा ना काम बहुत स्पीड से हो जाएगा. दिमाग तो पहले लगा लो. सिर्फ क्रिएटिव बनाना का काम थोड़ी ना है. So, like I said, in topical marketing, we created a framework called COT, class ownership topical. So what class does your topical belongs to? Is it a regional, international, or a local event? So like a Christmas is international, Diwali will be local, basically national, and then Bihu will be regional. Okay. Now ownership. What do you want to do with this day? Do you want to say hi, happy Diwali ji, changa laga? Do you want to do a small talk where you want to create education about this? For example, Dabar Gulabri, if I'm picking up a festival like Garba, I'm going to tell you how to use rose water to create back rubs or scrubs, right? Or packs. And then conversation, which is not to do with your product usage, but your brand DNA. Should I say, I believe in Valentine Day, like Dabar Gulabri will say that I believe in Rose Day because it is a teenager's regime who is supposed to use it in their fuddy-duddy love days, right? And in fuddy-duddy love days, your love is so warm, you can't say it with words, hence say it with a rose. So rose is a conversation for you. Any other regional festival where face packs and other stuff become important becomes a small talk for you. And any other day where you just want to say, great day, chocolate day, friendship day, it's just a say hi post for you. Now put budgets to it. I will spend 10 lakh rupees to make a film which is emotional, and I'll promote it by 50 lakh rupees because 1:5 ka ratio, 1:3 ka ratio to loge aap media mein, right? Then you say, okay, in small talks, I'm going to put so much budget, and this is my media budget. So creative and media, and then you come up with the total budget. Now say I have spent 1 crore across the year on topical marketing. What did you get in return? Did you get better engagement? Did people started loving you better? Do you have a post pre-survey to it, right? Has your brand score increased? Or you were doing offer based creatives and has your sale increased because of these, festivals? That's how you drive strategies. And doing this, do you think it's a 1 week job? No. But people don't put that kind of effort and don't have that kind of patience, as a result of which things are collapsing and everybody's all over the place.
So, is the role of the agency more about media buying or data resolution?
So I think the job of an agency should be strategy, data, and then execution, right? Why? Because at the end of the day, if you look at it, an agency who's only working towards performance, right, or execution will have no stay in the company. I will be there for a year and then the client will get bored because you're not able to think much. You're not able to create data surety for me. You're not able to do strategy for me. And that's why if you look at it, earlier the relationship with agencies were 10 years and now it's gone down to 1 year, right? We all are constantly looking for a new client because they don't have patience and we don't have strategy for them. So you need to, if you want to live or stay for a longer run, then you need to think through first party data solutions, strategy, expansion on retail networks. If you just want to have this year P&L sorted, then whatever you want to do.
How is Grapes using generative AI and automation in ideation, production, and media? And what guardrails do you guys apply?
So what we've done is, like I said, we've created or orchestrated AI tool. Okay. So how has AI moved in the journey? So last year was all about regenerative AI. Okay. You can create a lot of content, multimedia. Now people have become smart in terms of what quality content can be created. This year, 2026 will be about agentic AI, where you create small agents, you create small workflows, and the agent will start doing small jobs for you. 2027 will be about orchestrated AI. Okay. This is where you'll have 10 agents working together to solve one business problem. So imagine like a social media work. You first go to a content strategist who makes content buckets. Then you go to a copywriter who write ideas. Then you go to a designer who makes the design. Then you go to a social media expert who pushes it on the social media and schedule it and make the calendar and everything. Then you have an analytics team who evaluates data on it. Then you have an influencer team who finds influencers on the side. And you have a media team who promotes it on media. Now there's somewhere around 7-8 jobs within the social media chain itself. If I create agents for all of them, right, and put them in a pipeline so that they can exchange data with each other with a human loop, you will solve 2027 problem today. That is what we've started doing. So we have 8 MVPs coming up, out of which we've sorted 3. So we have a multimedia AI agent, agentic AI agent, who you just tell them what kind of image, what kind of video do you want, what kind of content do you want, it will create that for you.
And this is a mix of different subscription tools you have put together and you have created this on your own.
We've created custom workflows.
Okay.
So it's not just multiple different tools that we put. Yes, you're using either of the one models, which is basically to do with either Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, because they all have their different power. So if you're creating a small tech thing, I'll prefer Claude. If I'm doing English, then I'll prefer ChatGPT. But we've created a lot of custom for design, like we've created a lot of custom comfy UI workflows, right? And what we're doing is, for example, if you take a let's say Nano Banana or a Higgs field, right? They basically work on one model. So they'll take a creative, they'll change something on that creative and put it for you. Yeah. Or they'll take the prompt and then they'll create something for you. We have created a workflow where they takes one prompt, puts somewhere an output, then takes another prompt on top of it, puts something, and then another prompt, and then take it to the third output. So the quality of my output is 3x better than the quality of output that you have, right? Plus, we are training each of these custom comfy UI workflows on an individual brand. So I have trained my model on your t-shirt, let's say. The quality, the fabric, the brand, the tonality. Now, imagine, let's say, a chocolate brand who has 10 chocolates. And every chocolate in the end has that CGI effect of that chocolate being made and etc. etc. I've trained my brand, my workflows on that. So this is where the clients are able to actually generate better quality work, better output at a faster and a cheaper price.
Yeah.
So this is what we're trying to put together. So 2026, we will be just working through creating multiple such agents and putting them together in an orchestrated format, because 2027 will be not about agentic, it will be all about orchestration.
What so many agencies are trying to do with AI, that you're also doing with AI. You're trying to use agentic AI as well. You're trying to make your own agents, your own workflows, etc. Does do you think it would lead to a lot of Me Too work? Similar sort of work, um, instead of relying on human ingenuity and human creativity, or is there a layer of human creativity also that you're putting on top of everything that you're doing?
And nothing can run without a human. If you want to, okay, let's understand this. We were all writing in notebooks once upon a time. Computer came. Like my father-in-law and my mother-in-law both were in government jobs. Okay. One was in a Food Corporation of India and one was in a bank. Computer got introduced. They were all given a choice to quit, take their pension and move home, or learn and move forward. That time, everybody, and that was the entire emotional wave in the country, that computers is eating away human jobs, because somebody was writing it in the notebook was one job and then he was giving it to his boss. But today, do we think like that? Computer has increased our productivity to another level, right? We are able to do so much more. It is not funny as an individual. And let's be honest, हम क्यों खड़े हैं धरती पे? अगर हमें कुछ करना ही नहीं है तो हम पांडा बन जाते हैं ना. The point is that as a human race, you have the choice to work and take more out of the same minute that you're spending everywhere, right? Time is the biggest money. वो वापस नहीं आएगा, सब कुछ वापस आ जाएगा. Any tool that can bring you time back is a boon, right? So I am not asking you to work 100x more. I am saying finish your 8-hour job in 2 hours and figure out what you want to do in the next 6 hours. You want to go play piano, you want to take a swim, you want to spend time with your family, you want to learn something new, you want to finish 4x people job more, your choice. Right? All I'm telling you is get your life back. And your life can mean different things for different people. I don't want a work-life balance. I will work with those 6 hours more. You want a work-life balance, go play a game. That is what AI is going to do, but it is not going to become a Me Too. So everybody needs to just accelerate their work using AI. And whoever is able to do it faster, better, will be ahead of the game. And survival of the fittest कोई नया concept तो है नहीं यार आज की डेट में. सदियों से चलता आ रहा है, वरना कोडाक आज तक जिंदा होता ना.
Yeah. And on time, Shraddha, when you look at pitch cycles these days, you will probably see a brand calling for a pitch on LinkedIn, and you'll have hundreds of agency pitching. Or let's say if it's a more traditional way of calling for a pitch, and maybe there are 5 agencies now involved, and sometimes they would even give you 4 days to work, and sometimes they would give you I don't know, 2-3 weeks to work, depending on how they work, right? My question is actually about time wastage and creative wastage that you were talking about right now. Do you think the industry should move towards a paid pitch model, or do you think that's just not feasible because our industry, I mean, we don't really have a association of sorts, or we don't have a trade body that that speaks on our behalf, and there are so many thousands of players. It's difficult. But
Yeah.
what's your thinking on this?
यार हम ना भुक्के लोग हैं. हम सबको धंधा चाहिए. ठीक है? तो मैं आज कुछ भी बोलूं ना, आई एम टेलिंग यू, कल अगर मुझे कोई अच्छी पिच आ गई, मैं बिना पैसे के वो पिच कर रही हूँ. एज सिंपल एज दैट इन अ क्रूड लैंग्वेज. ठीक है? इतनी पॉपुलेशन है और सबको अपना पेट पालना, और हमें पेट नहीं पालना, हमें मूवी के लिए भी जाना, हमें खाना भी खाना, और हमें बढ़िया ब्रांड्स भी खरीदने. सो इट्स नॉट फनी, राइट? लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड द सिंपल कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ दाल रोटी सबके घर में आ रही है. वी आर ऑल वर्किंग फॉर दैट एक्स्ट्रा. Now, when a pitch is called, right? Whether it is called on LinkedIn, whether it is called on one-to-one, We all want to grab that pie. So I used to earlier not go and write on the LinkedIn post. ठीक है, वैसे कि यार मतलब 100 लोग वहां पे खड़े हैं, मैं एक और जाके पोस्ट, और मैं तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं करने वाली हूँ, भाड़ में जाए। मतलब जिस बंदे को ये नहीं पता कि एजेंसी कहाँ से बुलानी है, वो क्या ही सिलेक्शन करेगा। Then my CEO suggested, nahi, we are going to do it. You don't want to do it, don't do it. I'll do it. I said, your wish, your time, your call. I am not participating in this madness. The day you get a pitch and you think that pitch is worth it, tell me, I'll come to the room. Right? And it worked. We got one of the biggest clients from LinkedIn. Okay. I'm not saying that all our clients came from LinkedIn, but it did work. So अब आप उसको किस्मत बोलो, उसको मेहनत बोलो, काम तो करता है यार। ठीक है। अगर हम एक 1-to-1 भी पिच बुलाते हैं, तो भी दे आर कॉलिंग फॉर 10-12 एजेंसीज फॉर अ पिच, बिकॉज उसका भी KRA है यार, वो इवेल्युएट कैसे करेगा। फिर कमर्शियल का KRA है, उसको 30% कम कराना है, 3 एजेंसीज के बीच में से टेक्निकल बिड होगी, RFP होगा। सो दे विल कॉल सम 8-10 एजेंसीज फॉर अ पिच। ठीक है। नाउ in either ways you will have this kind of a thingy where you are batting against multiple agencies, which is also fair. But not having a paid pitch is a problem. Let's be honest. I spent 2 lakh rupees on a pitch because that's the amount of people. Yeah, the amount of people time that goes on a pitch is not funny. Okay? If I'm spending 2 lakhs on a pitch, I should be at least compensated for 2 lakhs. I'm not asking for profit, but give me that due respect. UK, US market, they pay you for a pitch. A lot of them, not I'm saying 100% of them, 60-70% of them do pay you for it. They pay you as low as £850, £700, but that's also okay. Now, because it's a money that's going out of your pocket, let's say £800 also per pitch, right? You will not take more than 5-6 pitches. That means you'll put some effort in terms of scrolling through the proposals or through the credentials of that agency and then choose your best bet. So I think that is something that should definitely come in our country, because we are all hungry for business, but the agency, the client should respect everybody's time and money. The second biggest pitch thing is calling pitch for fun or giving them the wrong timelines. I have seen clients who will take you 3 rounds of pitches, who will be like, अरे आपकी pitch तो बहुत बढ़िया लगी, आप ना ये change कर लो, आप ना इसमें ये add कर दो, आप ना इसमें पूरा ये बना दो। मैंने कहा, and I had so many rounds. I think, do you realize pitch is only to judge my capability, not to give you the whole business plan. You will have 10 agencies pitching you. You'll take the 10 strategy and business plan, put one idea each from one of them, have an in-house team execute it. What have you done? And we, like hungry agencies, we've all gone and pitched with the best ideas possible, with the best resources. NCT काम कर रहा होगा हमारी pitch पे, right? So what we are not realizing is that we are giving meat to crocodiles. Yeah, they are not going to appreciate what we bring on table unnecessarily. So I do a very calculated way of pitching, where we basically pitch only strategies, or we sometimes, let's say it's a positioning pitch. I will say, I don't know how to do a positioning pitch. If I can't sit with your brand, understand your consumer, do a survey, what will I pitch you in a positioning exercise? And look at my credentials. No, yaar. If you genuinely feel I have good quality work, I can sit down and I'll do it. So we take a lot of calls. They can be gut feeling, they can be calculated feeling. We also ask for remuneration upfront now, shamelessly. Tell us what's your retainer. Like yesterday, one client called me and they said, we want a pitch. I said, do you realize that everybody's going on a leave? He was like, yeah, we are going on leave. We come back, we want to see a pitch. I said, sadistic pleasure, man. Balls to you. Matlab, you you want to go and enjoy your holidays, but you want agency guys to work for you during the holidays. Right? This should be a low period for us also, na? We are any which way slogging way more than you are slogging. क्योंकि तुम्हें तो व्हाट्सएप पे फीडबैक देना है, हमें तो बैठ के उस फीडबैक पे काम करना है ना। तुम्हें तो लगता है लाल को काला कर दो भाई, इस फॉन्ट को थोड़ा सा ऊपर कर दो। अबे ऊपर करने के लिए फोटोशॉप खोलना पड़ता है, मैं ऐसे बोलना थोड़ा ना ऊपर कर दो इसको। So they don't realize all that. So I तो literally said, I am not pitching, period. You want your pitch, and you know what? Once you realize that you can put your foot down and say, we are not pitching, we will come to you back on 21st. Or I say a lot of time, I will take 3 days, 3 weeks minimum to pitch. पहले वीक तो स्ट्रैटेजी टीम को चाहिए, दूसरे वीक क्रिएटिव टीम को चाहिए आइडियाज डालने के लिए, तीसरे वीक जीटीएम टीम को और डिजाइन टीम को चाहिए। 3 हफ्ते बेयर मिनिमम है यार एक डेक बनाने के लिए। व्हाट इज योर एक्सपेक्टेशन?
Yeah, but we don't get that often, do we?
But yeah,
Um,
we put our foot down a lot of times. We say we nothing doing and कोई नहीं मर रहा होता उनकी साइड पे।
yeah, so often after a emergency pitch of sorts, you will see a 2 week lull. So you're absolutely right. I was also reading, Shraddha, that you made once a call to walk away from a mandate with Maruti because the budget did not allow for high funnel work you believed in. Now we were just talking about pitching, and so much of pitching is procurement led, right? How do you how do you teach your BD teams the power of no? That's what I'm interested to know about.
So I am a very firm believer of systems and enabling your team with the right processes and tools. So we have created, like how I explained you, proprietary framework in communication for our clients. We've created in-house tools which helps you in terms of calculations. So we have master formats. So for example, let's say I will tell them this is my calculation of a seat cost. This is my calculation of an employee cost. This is the bare minimum employee you need to run a funnel like this or a retainer like this. अगर इतना पैसा लग रहा है और मुझे 15% से नीचे तो जाना ही नहीं है, तूने 25% कमा दिया इस प्रपोजल में, नथिंग लाइक इट, बट 15% से नीचे आई एम नॉट गोइंग, राइट? So now he has a play already from 15 to 25 and he knows where to say no. He can't come to me with a proposal which goes below 15%. Because like I keep telling you, दाल रोटी की कमी नहीं है लाइफ में आज की डेट में, दाल रोटी हर ही है. So now you should not do business where it is just going to drive unnecessarily drama in your life. So that's how we've done our whole business, and they have the power to say no. And sometimes though my team, and the second big power that I've given them apart from revenue is respect. I keep telling them, you know what, if you've made a mistake, bow your fucking head down and come stand next to me. I will save you. You murder someone and come and tell me the truth, I will figure out how to save you. But if you're lying and covering your ass, I am not there for you. The second piece, if any time in a meeting your client Spock throws you under the bus in front of their senior management, he's not a team player. Be wary of those clients. Because you can stand for that client at 2 a.m. in the midnight for his appraisal, but when he is fucked and he throws you under the bus, that means he's not a team player, and move out of that relationship as soon as possible. We learned that the hard way, and we realized that we have so many good clients also in the industry who has stood by us. I remember in Maruti, there was my digital Spock, Sharanbir San, who's now in Facebook. She gave me a timeline to present like 24 hours. I said, fire करना ऐसे ही कर दो यार, काट क्यों रहे हो, right? And she said, अब तो कर दी commitment, कुछ नहीं कर सकते. And वहां पे बहुत सीनियर पोजीशन पे हमें पीपीटी देनी थी. And then I remember after that whole day when we were working, and I had a very bad back also, but still we worked through the night. 4 a.m. तक खत्म की हमने और 9 बजे जाके हमने मीटिंग कर ली थी. She had a small kid, 1 year old. The husband, the kid, and she was in my office working on that PPT together. Right? That is what is called as relationship, where you are in it together. Right? But client who makes a mistake and as soon as the boss shouts at you and they say कि यार अच्छा ये एजेंसी की गलती थी, इनको फायर कर देते, अबे तो तूने क्यों पीपीटी आगे की? So this is the power of no. On revenue, because you're not here for chanda, you're not here for charity, you have to make money, you have to feed your family. And when I walk into office, I don't feel like I have to make a new award today. I have the pressure of feeding 250 families. I know that if I fuck up anywhere in terms of revenue, I will not do right appraisal and I will not be able to feed 250 families.
Continuing with that, what KPIs do you prioritize when you're evaluating new business opportunities? Is it revenue, margin? Is it lifetime client value, or something else?
I don't think anybody looking for lifetime client value nowadays. Okay, why? Because there's no loyalty left. We don't want to stay with the same boy forget same client, right? So, and the client's also not looking for to stay with you for the same. Like I met a old client who we worked for 2 years. That client is a big MNC, never got an award in their life. We make them win like some 50, 60 awards in 2 years. And then they looked forward to changing the nation. The mail that we got was like, we're just bored. We just want to see a newer perspective. मैंने कहा ठीक है जी, कर लो जो करना है, कोई बात नहीं. And I'm not denying there must be errors from our side. Sometimes you get irritated. एक deck सही से टाइम पे नहीं पहुंचा होगा, कोई नया आइडिया अच्छा नहीं लगा होगा. बट ओवरऑल देखोगे तो बहुत अच्छा काम किया ना 2 साल में. इतने कैंपेन्स अप हो गए, बिजनेस इतना ऊपर हो गया, आप चर्चा में आ गए हो या कंसिडरेशन बढ़ गई आपकी. एंड देन after 2 years he met me abhi at a panel discussion, and he was like, अच्छा कोई अच्छा आइडिया तो ले यार, you know how we are, तुम्हारे साथ हम हमेशा ही काम कर लेंगे. So loyalty is gone to zero, and I don't believe in a lifetime value of a client. So what I believe is very clearly, अगर रिटेनर है तो 1 साल में मुझे नंबर 1 रिटेनर वैल्यू पे क्या बॉटम लाइन देगा और एडहॉक वैल्यू का टॉप लाइन कितना देगा, बस. Second thing that I want to understand, does he has appetite to experiment for awards? अगर अवार्ड वाला एपेटाइट है तो मैं थोड़े कम पैसे में भी काम करने को रेडी हूँ.
Every week, there is a new award function, new media houses getting into all of this. Have you seen any positive impact from awards on your business, on acquiring new businesses, on your NBD efforts?
There are 2 facets to it. ठीक है. One, I never pay for an award. ठीक है. I might have done it 10 years back for my third, fourth award because I didn't knew the game. But if as an agency I choose, I will never pay for an award. I will submit multiple entries. I can go up to 20 entries in a particular award if I know that the campaign is worth it, right? But I will not pay for an award. The second piece is you need to qualify which award makes sense. So there are 100 media houses, but only a few media houses have the right quality of award that you can drive in, right? So you choose that very categorically, and you know that these people have a better media reach. Third, don't try and win 30 awards in a campaign. You know, when you have the same agency going again and again on the stage for another award, you know that it is overwhelming, राइट? तुमने 100 एंट्रियां डाली होंगी जिसमें से तुम 50 जीत रहे हो, ठीक है, और तुम बार बार स्टेज पे जा रहे हो उसके लिए, एंड यू विल देन बी अनाउंस्ड एज द नेटवर्क एजेंसी ऑफ द ईयर. आई मीन, मेक्स नो सेंस टू मी. सो इफ यू हैव द राइट अवार्ड क्वालिफिकेशन, तुमने कांस भरा है, डीएनए भरा है, एबी भरा है, वेल देयर आर रूमर्स अबाउट एबी ऑल्सो, बट देयर इज ऑल्सो सम जेन्युइनिटी अबाउट इट, राइट? E4M भरा है, आई लव E4M awards, and there are also small media houses which are very good, right? You can choose to put the right award, and then your conscience is clear कि यार तूने पैसे नहीं दिए. बट अगर पैसे दे के अवार्ड मिल भी रहा है और तुम्हारी स्ट्रैटेजी में काम आ रहा है, ठीक है यार. आई मीन, आई एम नॉट जजिंग यू, बट योर चॉइस, and it does bring you clients. I've seen this.
All right. Which advertiser categories are you betting on for this year and the coming year? Are you seeing accelerated spend from automotive, from BFSI, from e-commerce, or is there a surprising growth in unexpected categories for you?
I'm genuinely focusing a lot more on D2C, sorry, B2B first. I realized, and I was never a B2B person, I was always a B2C agency. I realized they have a lot of money and they are now very hungry for experiment. Earlier they were very suit booted guy. Now they have become more colorful. So that is one great category to work with. Second, tech clients. They are, and fintech clients, anybody who's basically into a tech angle of a thing, they will be very, they'll be good because they will be very open to AI, agentic solutions, etc., to try and do stuff with, right? The third one is your, and like, you know, even fintech, right? 50% of the profit in the economy is made by fintech clients. So they obviously have money. So that is one big piece of doing this. Then I think you can experiment with a lot of FMCG clients because they're very heavy on advertising. People who thrive 14-50% of their revenue in advertising can be great clients. And then if you want to make quick bucks, then whoever has got funding, pick them up. right? Or whoever is launching, because they'll have very good funds in the first 2, 3 years, and any which way we're not looking for loyalty and lifetime value. That year, your revenue will shoot up because of that client. So that's how you take a juggle between them.
Last year, many agencies reported client losses despite industry growth. What is Grape's client retention rate, and how do you prevent clients from consolidating budgets with other agencies?
Like I said, there's no loyalty left in the industry. So my client retention rate will be 50-60%, not more than that. 40% of the clients do churn. There is no question to it. Sometimes we are at fault, sometimes clients at fault, sometimes it's just bad luck. Okay, or just they want to try something. See, at the end of the day, what I've seen in a industry like us, we are very dependent on our employee. If you have a good employee, he will retain the client. If you have a bad employee, the client will lose, right? You can only go to the client X number of times and say, I'm changing the team, I'm changing the team. But how many times will you do that also, right? So sometimes I to openly go and tell the client, I know we fucked up. And trust me, I was betting on the person. We should have looked into it. We did not do it. So you have the choice to move out. Let's be honest and open about it, right? Because I know if I make one good year where I am winning 100 awards and I've done genuinely 10 campaigns, which is all over PR, and people loved the campaign because it had some novelty in it, they will come back to me, right? And we've seen with so many new agencies cropping up, they're just 2 year old, 3 year old, and clients have started going to them because if they made a good name for themselves in the market and a specialty for them in the market. So there's no dearth of work, and clients will come back to you. So I think the churn rate can only be stopped by 3 ways. One, think of a 3 year vision and plan with them, right? Don't think of the next quarter and next campaign. Second, define KPIs very clearly out of that 3 year GTM. So if I go and meet you, let's say if I have a review meeting with the CMO or a CEO, and if I have to finish my meeting in 1 minute, how can you finish a review meeting in 1 minute? If you are home with that, that can decide the rest of the time with the client. So I say if you've defined, and that can only happen if you say, boss, I was supposed to get you 100 units of sale. I've got you 120 units. How did I get you? Don't bother. मैं घर जाके बेच के आ रही हूँ, मैंने खुद खरीद लिया है, doesn't make a difference, right? Let's say if I said I was supposed to get you 3 awards and I've got you 5. Done. I was supposed to get your brand consideration score up by 3 points. Done. Right? उसके बाद क्लाइंट ये बोल जरूर सकता है कि यार तुम्हारे साथ काम करने में ना मजा नहीं आया क्योंकि तुम्हारे साथ बहुत हैंड होल्डिंग करनी पड़ रही थी, हम रात रात भर तुम्हारे साथ जगे हुए थे। यार वो तो आप किसी और के साथ भी करोगे ना, लेकिन केपीआई मीट हो गया ना, इट्स अ पार्टनरशिप एट द एंड ऑफ द डे, देन the client can choose to go anywhere. But the problem today is that we're all afraid of KPI. मेरी टीम केपीआई प्रॉमिस नहीं करना चाहती, वो अपने बॉस को केपीआई प्रॉमिस नहीं करना चाहता, तो फिर कैसे टिकोगे एक रिलेशनशिप में यार? So I think that's the 2 best ways to do it. Have a long-term vision, define quantifiable KPIs, and everything can be quantified. There's nothing which cannot be quantified, specifically in the communication world. And then you're home.
More brands are now building in house creative and media teams. Insourcing is on the rise. How do you convince a CMO that outsourcing to Grapes makes more sense than building in house?
I, in fact, appreciate if you guys can create an in-house team, right? And it's very important. I'll tell you why. Okay? मेरे पास 5 बंदे आपकी सोशल में लगे हुए हैं, ठीक है? सोशल में वो 5 बंदों के पास 3 क्लाइंट्स हैं। वो दिन रात आपके ब्रांड पे काम नहीं कर रहा है, वो जाके कंटेंट क्रिएट नहीं कर रहा है, वो हर चीज के आपसे एक्स्ट्रा पैसे मांगेगा बिकॉज दैट्स हाउ आवर मॉडल इज मेड, राइट? If you can run an in-house team for execution, there is nothing brilliant than that, right? If you get the right team. Problem is to get the right team also today. And I mean, I love Gen Zs, but a majority of them are not easy to work with, right? Second, but you can't drive strategy with in-house teams, right? Because what happens is there are 2 big challenges. One, you need a seasoned person to do that, and you might not have the budget for that CTC. Second, you need an experienced person who is working on 8 different brands to bring a new perspective to you. You can't get that with one person in your team, right? And the third biggest piece is when your hands are busy doing in-house execution, you won't have time to think through a strategy. And this happens with us as an agency also. You give me 2 campaign brief, I'll be so busy, I'll not think about the third thing, right? And then we say, यार अभी दो पे काम चल रहा है, एक दिन महीने बाद देखेंगे. And again, the same problem comes in. Your GTM is not defined. You have 10 different things to crack in the same month. You have 5 people to do that 10 different things. You'll never achieve success, whether in-house or with an agency. So define roles. What will your in-house team do? So if it is about content creation on a day-to-day basis for social media, please do an in-house team. So many clients, they've called me and I said, yaar, aap kya karo? In-house team rakh lo. And they were like, Shraddha, are you serious? You're an agency. You should get this business. I said, yaar, dal roti aa rahi hai na. You should remember me in good times. Dal roti ki tension nahi hai mujhe. So that's where they really appreciate the facts, the truth that we bring on table, right? एक नया क्लाइंट था, उसने मुझे कॉल किया विद रेफरेंस एंड आई सेड क्या कर रहे हो यार, कोई जरूरत नहीं, मैंने आपका पेज देख लिया, आप इन हाउस कर लो. एंड ही सेड अच्छा ठीक है, आई विल कॉल यू एवरी फोर्टनाइट जस्ट टू टेक टिप्स. आई सेड टिप के पैसे लगते हैं. सो आई सेड आई कैन हेल्प यू बट देन डोंट बी ग्रीडी. ये नहीं ना उंगली दिया तो आप हाथ ही पकड़ लो. राइट? सो आई डोंट थिंक इट्स अ बैड आइडिया, बट don't compare a in-house team without calculating your seat cost and putting that as a cost comparison to an agency. Saying, अच्छा मैंने तो 50,000 रुपए का बंदर लिखा है, आप 75,000 क्यों ले रहे हैं? अरे मेरी सीट कॉस्ट है 25,000 और उसके बाद मुझे 20 रुपए तो बनाने दो, मैं फ्री में थोड़ा ना ये काम करूंगी आपके लिए. So that respect needs to come in. Rest, I don't think it's a fight. It needs to coexist in the system, defining what is the agency job and what is the in-house team job.
And how do you prevent your margins from being squeezed by procurement departments? What's your strategy in dealing with them? I was speaking to, I'll tell you, I was speaking to Lulu Raghavan a few weeks back, and she said something very interesting. She said, you know what we do, Vishal? We actually give a presentation separately to procurement departments also. So you know, we tell them, I mean, one is giving respect to those guys, that you know, it's not just the CMO or the CEO who's important, you are also important, and we will give a presentation to you also, so you get to know what value we are bringing to the table. And only after that I start telling them, now you tell me where you see us, you know, getting squeezed.
Oh, brilliant. I think I will implement this strategy.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense.
But what do you do right now?
Yeah, so I have sat with so many commercial discussions now. I know the code. So कोई भी अच्छी कंपनी में एक कमर्शियल टीम का KRA है 10 से 30% कॉस्ट रिड्यूस करना. ठीक है, उनकी KRA शीट में लिखा हुआ है. यू नीड टू नो दैट एज अ बेंचमार्क. इफ यू नो कि 10% से 30% उसको कम करना है और आप उसकी टेबल पे जाके बैठोगे, आप अड़ गए कि यार मैंने ऑलरेडी 3 राउंड्स ऑफ नेगोशिएशन कर लिए हैं आपकी टीम के साथ, मार्केटिंग टीम के साथ, मैं और नीचे नहीं जा सकता, यू आर डिसरिस्पेक्टिंग हिज जॉब. सो always keep a buffer for the commercial team to close. In fact, I've been so shameless. I have gone to the marketing guy and I said, आप negotiate कर रहे हो, commercial भी आएगी negotiate करने. अगर आएगी तो आई एम नॉट सेंडिंग यू द कॉस्ट दैट आई हैव टू सेंड टू द कमर्शियल. ठीक है, आई एम नेवर गोइंग टू डू दैट. एंड दे आर लाइक कि नहीं नहीं कोई नहीं आएगा. मैंने कहा अगर आया तो देख लेना, I am not going to reduce the cost. And I have genuinely done this. I've closed a price with the marketing team on something and I've sent a 10% higher cost to the commercial team because I know that they will negotiate. And you need to respect their job, right? Second is very simple. If you have crossed the 3 bids, कि यार आप टेक्निकल राउंड कमर्शियल राउंड पे एक लेवल पे आ जाए, तो आप L1 हो T1 टेक्निकल में, बट आप कमर्शियल में L3 हो, राइट? बिकॉज योर प्राइसिंग इज हायर. ठीक है, देन यू सिट डाउन विद द कमर्शियल टीम एंड एक्सप्लेन दैट कि यार आपकी कंपनी में आए तो यूज वर्ड्स. आई मीन बाय द टाइम यू हैव रियलाइज दैट आई एम वेरी मुफट, राइट? एंड आई कॉल अ स्पेड. सो आई तो टेल देम दैट यार आप आज यहाँ से नौकरी छोड़ के अगर कहीं और जाके सैलरी मांगते हो तो आप क्या सेल्स सैलरी पे काम कर लोगे? अब आपकी सर्विस की एक वैल्यू है ना, तो मेरी सर्विस की भी वैल्यू है. आपको ऐसे रोड साइड पे एक एजेंसी मिलेगी जो मेरे से सस्ता कर रही होगी, हो सकता है अच्छा काम कर दे. आपको मुझसे महंगी एजेंसीज भी मिल जाएंगी, लेकिन आज आई नो व्हाट माय वैल्यू इज. सो इफ यू थिंक दैट दिस वैल्यू इज गोइंग टू ब्रिंग इन राइट रिटर्न्स टू यू, देन यू साइन मी अप. एंड आई थिंक till now that has worked, but I love this one idea. I think I will definitely give them more respect.
Yeah. I've started implementing that also actually in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So was actually quite brilliant.
Yeah,
Um,
I think this is a very good idea. Simple logic, yeah, it works so well.
yeah. Have you ever felt pressure, or have you ever thought about joining a holding company? Has ever people, I'm sure people would have approached you in some
Yeah.
manner.
I I
And what do you think
I,
about it? Do
I
you think it
appreciate
makes sense?
it makes sense. I'll tell you why. Three, four different levels. Okay. So I remember one of the panel discussions I was in, and this question was asked that, are you ready to let go of your company and sell it to someone? And that's what I think every agency dream is, कि IPO निकल जाए या फिर बिक जाए. Yeah, that's how you make large monies. Let's be honest about it, right? And then this founder was like, no, no, it's my baby. I'm attached to this name and I'm not going to do this. How can you let go of a company that you've built from scratch and spent sleepless night with? Then the question came to me. He was like, will you let go of your name as Graves? I said, I've let go of mine personal name, yeah, so many times. I was called Ricky when I was a kid. Then I was called Shraddha Agarwal. Then I had to change my name to Shraddha Arya, right? I mean, I have no problem losing my name again as long as my vision is being met. What is my goal in life, right? That's what needs to be met. So I think it's a brilliant thought depending on your goal. So first is money. No question asked. You make money. एजेंसीज आज तुम्हारे साथ, क्लाइंट्स हमारे साथ आज भी थे, वो कल किसी और के साथ होंगे, वो एनी विच वे अट्रिशन इतना चल रहा है तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. एम्प्लॉयज आज तुम्हारे साथ खड़े थे, वो कल तुम्हारे साथ दूसरी कंपनी में होंगे या फिर किसी और के पास काम कर रहे होंगे, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, राइट? योर विजन एंड यू शुड स्टे ट्रू टू योर विजन. The second big vision is, I genuinely appreciate consolidation puts you on a bigger platform, right? I can stand on a crossroad and shout, I am way more sexier, better, more driven, more involved than any other large agencies that you are working with currently. But will I get that business? Will I get that chance also? But if I'm today a part of a large agency and I knock on a door of a client saying, this is the agency that I'm a part of, the doors will open to me, right? And trust me, same काम कर रहे हैं. आज एक बड़ी एजेंसी में जो लोग हैं वही लोग मेरी एजेंसी में भी थे यार, यहीं तो घूम रहे हैं सबके सब. तो कोई सर्विस स्टैंडर्ड्स में, नॉलेज में, क्वालिटी में तो डिफरेंस नहीं आने वाला. हाँ, आप कह सकते हैं उनके पास 2 प्रोप्राइटरी टूल्स है. यार इतने टूल्स हो गए मार्केट में, आपको डेटा चाहिए ना, मैं ला दूंगी. So people are not understanding that, and they are still stuck on the fact, I want a bigger agency to work with. And Dubai is classically one of those markets who always want a bigger name to work with, right? So I genuinely feel a tag on your company can also get you bigger names, bigger platforms, more opportunities. And again, if that's your goal, you should figure out a relationship like that. In that case, don't do 100% acquisition, because then your money is not your goal. Your goal is to increase your business. Then do an acquisition which is like a 49%, 30%, so that you get a bigger. So depending on your objective, I think it's a great methodology, but you should be knowing what you're getting into.
All right. And with that, Shraddha, thank you so much for such a brilliant conversation. I really enjoyed myself. Thank you a lot for being so generous with your time.
Anytime. I think this was amazing. It is interesting always to, answer different perspective. And sometimes when you listen to these questions, you're like, अच्छा ये तो मैंने सोचा ही नहीं था.
Ah.
So thank you so
Absolutely.
much for having
Thank
me
you.
on this. It was amazing to be here.
And that is a wrap on episode 18. I told you Shraddha would bring the harvest. Thank you for coming on and showing us how to scale an agency without losing the geek within. Next Sunday, the Indian App Geek will celebrate with episode number 60, and we will have Kevin Marquette from Lufthansa for it. If you've enjoyed this episode, do the usual, rate us, roast us, or just share this with that one friend who still thinks digital marketing is just posting on Facebook. The Indian Ad Geek streams on all major podcast apps. Shraddha is not on X now, but I am at Vishal Van Mehra everywhere. Hit me up with your feedback. Until next time, keep your creative antennas tuned and your ad geek flag flying high. Stay quirky, stay curious, and keep geeking out.